Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I just want to begin by congratulating the India Art Fair on its 15th edition. And thank you, Nadia and Tarana. I'm looking forward to our conversation today. So, just to begin with, I briefly wanted to talk about what patronage has meant in the past and how it's transitioned to the contemporary times and projects that both of you are supporting and have supported. Just going back to when we think about patronage, it initially was how the arts were created through what somebody may have been interested in. And it was more based on personal interest to what now is happening today, where both of you, through the Samdani Art Foundation, Tarana, through so many collaborations, have moved forward into, say, realizing ideas, what somebody else has. And it sort of transitioned into arriving at an idea from the other side as well. So we could perhaps begin with Nadia. Perhaps you could start with a few. Could we actually start with presenting on a few of the projects that you supported, and Tarana, you as well, and then we can move into a conversation from there.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So happy to be here. Um, when I first visited India Art Fair, I think it was in either 2010 or 10 or 2011, and it was one of the first editions. And yesterday, when I visited, and the difference that I saw, that in 2010 or 11 there was no Bangladeshi artists, and so many years down, and this time I saw there were so many Bangladeshi artists. So I think this is a very proud moment for us that, through creating Dhaka Art Summit and Samdani Art Foundation, that this has been possible, the exposure has been possible, and people from all over the world can come to Bangladesh and visit our event for research, for to learn, to see, to get the exposure of Bangladeshi artists. So anyway, so to give you a brief background of Dhaka Art Summit is we started in 2012, and we've just finished our sixth edition last year, and it's been quite a journey. So this is an image of Anthony Gormley, who did a project for us in last edition of Dhaka Art Summit in February. And this is the first time he used this material, the bamboo. And I think this also gives an example that how we have to be sustainable in this world, like how we can reduce carbon footprint. So we really, I think it's also a conscious decision for artists that, they also want to make less footprint. So while he was doing his research, when we invited him to do a project for us, and the research, it was like, what can we do? What are the materials, and how we don't want to ship anything. So this material, which he's never used, bamboo, and bamboo is, in our part of the world, one of the most reused, recycled material. And so this project is actually, it could be a straight line, it could be a drawing, it could be a sculpture. It's like a second skin when people are running through it. So this is the bamboo he used was about, if you put it in a straight line, it's 2.5 kilometers long, and he reused. And it was after the project was done, it was given back to a young architecture company to reuse. So I think it's playful. It's a project that, of course, the scale and the size and yeah, so you can see images like how playful, and it was like a second skin when you're running through it. We have a lot of school visitors, children who come, and this has been one of the most popular projects. This project that I wanted to talk about is a young Indian artist, Bhasha Chakravarti, and this was of course, through a lot of research when we invited her what she would like to do, and this last year's theme was Bonna. Bonna means flood in Bengali, and we also name girls in our country in Bangla named Bonna, but when you translate the word Bonna, it means flood. But in the Western world, we can't think of naming our children flood. So to us, it's a positive thing, and we embrace the rain and the floods because it's good for our harvesting. So this project was through, of course, extensive research through the East and the West Bengal. So what she's done here is she's collected 1,001 saris, half from West Bengal and half from Bangladesh, and woven them together into a braid. So it's interconnected, like it's borderless. And the figures that you see are the pillars, the 9 pillars that hold up the building, which is the woman figure. And, it's covered in saris and the plant, the taro plant and the bamboo plant, banana plant. And it's a project that when we invite artists to come do projects for us at the Dhaka Art Summit, I think the most exciting part is how the journey or the concept starts and to the end result of the finishing of the project. I think it's, for us as patrons or as supporters, I think that is the most exciting part, that you're part of the journey and how over time the project changes and it develops and it grows and the ultimate result. So these braids were like a snake-like figure which was all over the South Plaza of the building. So people were lying down with it, they were resting, they were playing. This is an interesting project. So we're also building a sculpture park and an art center in the northeastern part of Bangladesh, which is Sylhet. So we're planning to open, inshallah, next year. And this space has been in work for a long time. And this was actually one of the first projects when we invited Asim Waqif to do a project for us. And we said that whatever you want. And because he does extensive research with bamboos, he said, we want to make a bamboo flute. And we said, and when we asked him how long will it take, he said 5 years. So then he planted the project. We partnered with bamboo research institutes, many bamboo research institutes across Bangladesh, and we traveled. There are 14 different kinds of species of bamboos planted here. So what it will be, it will grow into a forest, and once it's grown, it will be tied together in a certain way that when the wind blows through it, it will make a flute-like sound. So so this is how it is now. It's like a bamboo forest. Some places he comes every couple of months, and it grows. It takes different shapes. There's going to be bridges. But the interesting thing is, he first said 5 years. And when we were nearing 5 years, it was like, how long? Okay, are we almost ready? Then he said, no, it will take 7 years. When we were getting closer to 7 years, it will take 10 years. And then after that, he said it would take 15 years. And last time I was on a panel at Freeze a couple of months ago, and in my panel, he said it would take 20 years. So we're being very patient and with this project, and it's time. You cannot force nature, and it's one of those projects that you grow with. And So yes, so these are some of the images. That's him. Yeah, I'll.
Thank you, Nadia. I'm going to come back to a lot of these questions. And also, what's beautiful is how, through the foundation, you and Rajiv have brought in the world to Dhaka and to Bangladesh with Sylhet as well. And Tarana, what you have done is you've supported so many projects that is taking India and South Asia to the world. So maybe we can go through what you've been supporting and worked on, and one of which is also here with Jitish's work, and then we can move into conversation from there.
Am I still going on with yours? Am I just pushing? I think the other way.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Veerangana and Nadia. That was amazing. I'm like wondering whether we're going to be too old to walk through all those bridges by the time that project is done. Hi, everyone. It's lovely to see you today. I want to talk about 3 projects that I've been involved with, which have meant a lot to me personally, and that's why I chose them. The first one is the India Pavilion at the 58th Venice Biennale. It was based on 150 years of the Mahatma. It was a national pavilion that was co-organized by the Ministry of Culture and the Confederation of Indian Industry, which I am a part of. It was commissioned, the commissioner was the National Gallery of Modern Art, and it was curated and supported by the Kiran Nadar Museum of Art. It was actually the first time that a project like this had been realized in the art community, where the private sector and the public sector came together to work on something. The result was glorious, very last minute, but it was glorious. This is the title page where you can see who all the partners are. The pavilion was in the Arsenale. That's an image of Atul Dodia, followed by Hussain and Shakuntala Kulkarni that you can see. On the right are images, photographs by Kanu Gandhi of Gandhi's travel during his Dandi March. It was an incredible project that was realized because there were artists. I'll go ahead. It started with the Haripura posters by Nandalal Bose. For those of you who don't know, the Indian National Congress meeting, Nandalal Bose was one of the few artists that Mahatma Gandhi supported. And he had commissioned Nandalal to make images of all the professionals and all the sort of the vocations and the professionals who worked. So these posters are in the collection of the NGMA, and they are a national treasure. And these were taken, and the pavilion basically initiated and started with this. This is the first public notice series by Jitish Kalat. It was an incredibly moving work. Gandhi, just before the advent of World War II, wrote a letter to Hitler. It started with "My dear friend," and he urged him to stop the World War and said that he was the only one who had the capacity to stop it. It's an incredible projection of smoke where you walk through reading the letter and becoming a part of this immersive artwork. This is very, very special to me today because I'll speak about how there's an extension of this in one of the other projects that I'm supporting at the India Art Fair this year. This is Ashim Giariranna, where he showed khadaus with lost objects and paintings of all the professionals and all the communities that were inclusive when Gandhi marched during his Dandi March. Shakuntala Kulkarni, Romana Hussain, and these are other images of the pavilion. It was realized in a matter of 2.5 months. It was rated one of the top 5 pavilions. We won a National in India Today award for this pavilion. And it brought the art community together in a way where I have never seen such support. There was every single, whether their artists were represented or not, every gallerist, every member of the community, every single person urged us on and helped us in a way that I have never seen before. And personally, for me, I got to represent my country. It's something that I've never done, and it's a feeling that I will never forget, particularly because I was representing a part of my country that I was so confident of, that had taken such a long time coming. And it was valued and received with such incredible feedback on an international stage that the impact today is that many more organizations, museums, institutions globally have started collecting art from our country. There's so many people who were exposed to it who had probably not been to our part of the world. And I think projects like this really need to kind of be made on a permanent basis. Next is our FICA Special Artist Project at the India Art Fair. FICA was founded by a bunch of very, very special women in 2007. And what prompted me to join FICA is the kind of support that they were lending the emerging artist community. And when, as a board, we were actually funding most of the programming done by FICA, none of us could realize this part, which is to bring the community into art, community that is not used to art, into art. So when the FICA Patrons Program was founded, primarily with the goal of supporting the programming of the foundation, the Women Board decided to realize our dreams with this project that happens annually. The brief was very simple. It had to be an artist project. It was a public art project for the public. The brief was it had to be immersive, it had to be engaging, it had to be applicable to every age group, every single person who came to the art fair and became a part of the project. This one was very special by Tukral and Tagra. You wrote your dream or your hope on a piece of paper, shredded it, and mixed it into a tile that you made with the artist, and then you got to take that tile home. The next one was by Shilpa Gupta, where shadows were molded and maneuvered according to the shape, and this one was a particular favorite with the younger audience. I mean, I just saw throngs and throngs of kids come and engage in this project. So Darshan worked on a concept of carnival and a fair the next year, where you could actually ring art objects, and if you won them, you could take them home. The image on the right is a photo booth created by Aradhana Seth that you could be a part of. So you can see that they've all been very immersive and interactive. We're talking about patronage, so this one really challenged us. The artist was Mithu Sen, but not only did the audience not know when this project was on that she was the artist, it was an unknown artist, but when we were asked to support the project, we didn't know who the artist was. So we just had to support a project blindly in the faith that whatever would emerge, would emerge. So we were patrons for the sake of patronage here. COVID hit, it kind of stalled in a little bit, but last year was Srimanti Saha. And this year, I'm going to ask you to remind yourselves of the image from the India Pavilion a few slides ago. This is the third in the series of public notice by Jitish Kalat, who went and spent some time in South Africa. And these are calendars that Nelson Mandela had in his cell while he was imprisoned. And the concept is that while the calendars really brought the outside inside, most of the images that you see when you go into the project are very colorful. It's bringing nature in. It kind of contrasts with what he was going through, which was, you know, no windows, no exposure to the outside world, and being in a cell. And there are mutations that he has made on several parts of the calendar on the side and above, where he's recording everything from his blood pressure or to what he knows the weather is outside, including a very detailed excerpt of the Indian elections that had taken place, but he only records it a few months or a few weeks later, showing that by the time the news reached him, how much time had lapsed and how there was no concept of time when he was inside. Please do visit this project, it's very special. So the third And probably one of the most emotional and heartwarming projects that we worked on was with the Chennai Photo Biennale at a time when I think all of us needed all the support that we could get. It was COVID, we were in lockdown. There was obviously no art to be seen other than what was virtual. And this was an open call project where we sent an open call nationally to the audience, asking them to share images of their hero during their COVID experience and why that person was their hero. The response was overwhelming. We received thousands of entries, and everything from pets to municipal workers to the person who delivered food to their parent or their spouse. It was incredible. And the feedback after people sent it in was even more heartwarming because they wrote about how they needed to express that gratitude, and this project helped them achieve that. These are some of the winning entries. The project was archived permanently in Google Arts and Culture, and they also commissioned 20 women artists to build communities around these photographs. And to this date, I think this is a project that reminds me most of all that art does not need to be on a canvas. It does not need to be in an institution. Art is a feeling, and art is applicable to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Tarana. That was really spectacular. I think what both of you presented, it's also where with both your with what both your presentations I think highlighted was the sensitivity with which the audience also becomes such an important part of the experience. And something I wanted to bring up that, Nadia, you brought this up when you spoke about bamboo and how it was repurposed. And Tarana, what you said about how you wish this could become a more permanent exhibition is the ephemeral nature of what you all have supported from what you presented. And there's so much of what comes in as trust, but also as letting go in some way with this kind of support, because you support it, but you also trust it in a way where you watch it grow, like with Asim's project. And with what happened with Chennai Photo Biennale and how projects move through time and there is this impermanence to that. So how do you think about both these factors when it comes to patronage?
I think that is actually one of my favorite parts of the journey of being a patron is letting go. Like when we invite artists, we get the project proposal, and then that's when the journey begins, right? So it starts with one thing, and then it grows and grows and grows, and sometimes it turns out to be something completely different. So, and for me, what I enjoy the most is being part of that, because I'm not an artist, but I love being around artists, and it's an incredible part of my growth, actually, and to learn and to be a part of it. And yes, that trust. And I think also Dhaka Art Summit and our sculpture park, you know, what Rajiv and I would like it to be a place is for a place where artists can come and realize their dreams where they couldn't anywhere else in the world. You know, just to think about it, for Asim's project, somebody, if he were to do that anywhere else in the world, to find a land, to find the support, find the time, I mean, it's a huge commitment. And even we've also done other projects. We've also worked with a Polish artist. Her name is Monika Słonowska, and she's been wanting to do this project for a long time in Poland, and it's a concrete river. And when we first heard about the project, and you know, we invited her to Sylhet in our space. She took a helicopter and went round above And then she was seeing that that Bangladesh is a land of rivers. From the top, you see all these rivers everywhere. They're like squiggly lines. And she made a concrete river. And whereas in Poland, she tried for many years, she didn't get the permission and all these things. But it's a place where, so I think, this is what we want to do. We want to be a part of this journey with artists where they can really realize their dreams, and my part is to let go. If it's possible, it will happen.
I think, Nadia, you've said it all. I think I really am one of the most uncreative people I know. And to have the opportunity to be a small part of something that is much bigger than me. It's much bigger than the artist. It's much bigger than everything. It's that is what is going to last. And if I can play even like a tiny little role in that, I think that's where my enthusiasm for this comes.
I think both. I mean, it's so humbling to just see that there's an idea being realized. There's so much that one learns from just seeing what comes to life from what we may not know or thinking differently. It's arriving at what we may already be looking at, but the different perspectives from which we arrive at it. And what I'm curious about is the research process that both of you do. I mean, personally, how do you arrive at knowing you want to support something, or how do you arrive at an artist's work? And I'm sure there are people who come to you being like, oh, these are the different proposals, but the more you look, the more artists there are with the number of art schools, and there's so many people and projects and ideas that need support. So what is it that for both of you are key points which you look out for, or what makes you want to leap at something and say that this is what you want to realize, this is how you want to do it?
I think that's a very difficult part, because there's so many artists that you want to support and work with them. But I think for us, it is, because we work with a team of curators, it is through research and how it will fit in with us, our work, whether if it's Dhaka Art Summit, then how it will fit in with the theme, and whoever the curator invites. It's really, I think Rajib and I, we don't get involved in that because we're not professionals in that way. So our team does that, and that's how they're invited. But there are also so many artists that need support, and we need to work with, and we need more and more patrons. But yeah, I think through research, and we try to figure out who we want to work with, the proposal, if we like it, and so on. And of course, the artist's journey is the important part.
Okay, for me, this is very easy, because so many things need support. So many genres within this ecosystem need support that it's almost like I wish I could support more. I'll give you an example. For example, there's a wonderful exhibition at the Milton Keynes Gallery that just ended 2 days ago called Beyond the Page. The story is incredible. Zahoor and Ghulam Sheikh went to the Royal Academy and discovered South Asian miniature paintings for the first time. They'd never seen that kind of quality, and it influenced their process of learning so much that they both went back to their own countries and almost changed the style of the school that they were heading. That exposure and the fact that there are miniature paintings that had never seen the light of day were going to be exhibited across collections, from the Royal Collection, from the British Library, the Ashmolean, and the British Museum, and so on. And it was contemporary practices that had been influenced by it, and how there was a reaction, and all these hundreds of years between both. And The reason why I supported that exhibition is because it spoke about the history of my country. It spoke about the language that needs to be spoken about this region. And it had honest conversations about repatriation, or the fact that if 150 turners showed up in a trunk in Parliament House, how would anyone feel about that? And as long as they were happy to have those honest conversations, I was happy to support it. I mean, it's just a small example of, I think, as long as you know that something is being inclusive, as long as you know that every foundation and organization is working for the same reason, and everyone's happy to collaborate. The Dhaka Art Summit and FICA collaborated during COVID on a project with an artist from Bangladesh and an artist from FICA, and it turned out to be an incredible project that traveled. I think you just go with the flow. When you know the energy is good, you give your energy.
And I think through that, what both of you have faced are these challenges, and what one ends up seeing as an audience is, and you see that even over here at the fair, you see that with exhibitions where till the day before, there's always something where you're thinking, oh, how is this going to come about? What are we going to face? And then everything is just perfect, because then you don't really know what's gone behind it. But whether it's traveling exhibitions out of just South Asia itself, because one doesn't think about the logistics. And Nadia, what you were talking earlier about just the lighting, and these are small things that one only realizes when you're working on them. And what both of you have chosen to do is also move beyond these challenges to support things. So are there some of the more difficult things that you may have faced that you'd like to bring about, and what's kept you pushing through that?
I think for Samdani Art Foundation, our mission was from the beginning to put Bangladesh on the global art map. So, of course, there are challenges, of course, there are logistic issues, but fortunately, we live in the part of the world where we can make things happen. And we do it. And, you know, the show must go on. I mean, it can't be like, okay, we have this challenge, so we can't do this. I think we just, keep on moving.
Do you feel that through moving through this, have there been larger changes that have gotten integrated into the system over time, and do you see that panning across other spaces? Or?
Of course. Like, you know, like a little while ago you said about challenging with, say, lighting and, you know, little things like that. I mean, of course it's challenging when we first started, but then, you know, the Dhaka Art Summit, we work with such a huge team. We have a team of hundreds of mediators who are volunteers, and they come back every edition to work for us. They look forward, because these are young students. We've trained lighting people, we've trained installers, we've trained a huge group of people that, you know, how to handle art, how to work around it, how to, you know, design and look at things in where this wasn't, when we started, these things weren't there. So now of course there are challenges, but not as much as we had before. And you know, Dhaka Art Summit has become an event. When Rajiv and I started, it was an event that, okay, this private foundation is doing it, this couple does it, okay, you know, and it's a great event, it's a public event. Now, over the years, it's no more we do it, or no more it's a private foundation who does it. The country owns it. It's no more small, it's huge. And it's become an event that the whole country looks forward to, and they own it, and they look forward to it. And people support it, they visit, and you know, I mean, I can't, I mean, of course, both of you have been, and you know, a lot of you in the audience have been there. The people, the crowds, you can see that, you know, it's like a festival. It's like an event that people really look forward to. And So when you see that, you actually forget about all the logistical, all the challenges you have, and it's a big motivation that you know how you want to make it better and do more.
It's true, and it almost builds an ecosystem in some way over time where through creating something of that scale, you train people, you make the effort of where the patronage extends beyond just the art, but actually creating an entire system. And Tarana, for you, I mean, you've, again, supported so much outside, and I know it's not easy to take things out with, even just with basic things like the shipping works and realizing things in a country we're not familiar with the processes, but it's still something that you toil through so often. And the fact that you collaborate with different partners, and it also means relearning how different teams work, how different partnerships work, and yeah.
I mean, honestly, of course, it's challenging. Small example, I was having mini coronaries yesterday because it rained day before, the fog machine for the Jitish project was kind of glitchy, we had to close. First day, first hour, the show was not open. You go through that. But it all works out at the end. I mean, everybody who's sitting here knows all the challenges, and it all works out at the end.
And one more thing that I wanted to pick up on what you spoke about earlier is just this idea of moving beyond looking at a specific identity of a certain place, but supporting something much larger as a region, just South Asia itself, and taking this to places where it's not about somebody from the outside doing it, but you taking it there, but it also having the possibility to come back. And the way you've been thinking about the region as a collective form and being able to support this across countries, but also thinking of it, what you said earlier, just with South Asia and East Asia, and being able to highlight that, but also recognizing the need for it.
You work better in larger groups. And when you have team members like the Dhaka Art Summit, which is part of the South Asia conversation, and everyone's willing to work together, or from, other parts, you work together. That just makes sense to work together. And we are sharing histories. We're sharing kind of the same stories. We need to make an impact as a subcontinent, as a region together. I'll give you a very small example of this. 2 years ago, Ali Kazim, who's a Pakistani artist, went for a residency to the Ashmolean. And once he got there, he thought that it would be better for him to work with the antiquities from South Asia, and then that's the show that he put forward. My husband Tarana and I supported that show. But when I was spending that extraordinary amount of time with the museum, they realized that there was a particular antiquity that they had from South India that was shady in its provenance. And conversations started about it. The museum was incredible. They were ethical, they figured it out, and that particular antiquity has now got a public notice under it because of the conversations that one had with them. They've come, they've researched, and hopefully at the end of this calendar year, the antiquity should be returned to its proper place in South India. So if I could have that conversation, it could have an impact. It's enough.
Oh, that's amazing. And also
And it's just like conversations emerging out of something else, right? Like it was another project, but you're sitting together, you're having this, you speak, you mobilize something, and something else really quite emerges.
It's true, and also it's how, again, through supporting something where it's not just the outcome, it's moving into a larger form of giving in some way, where it's also getting back what we may have lost before even you when I left the country, and what happened, and through the research again, that it's coming back.
But Veerangana, I can, I think, say this very safely on behalf of every patron who supports this wonderful ecosystem. We get back way more than we give. Don't you agree? We get back way more than we give.
Absolutely. And talking about, working and collaborating, I think it's very, very important collaborating. Like Tarana said, working in a large group is always better. And, collaborating within the region is very important. Recently, we collaborated with the KNMA Museum in the last Dhaka Art Summit, and probably a lot of you have seen this really, really beautiful exhibition. It was called A Very Small Feeling, where it was Dhaka Art Summit. It was KNMA curator and our curator, their research. They designed the show. 30% of the works were Samdani Art Foundation, 30% of the works were KNMA collection, and 40% were new commissions. See, this exhibition was at the Dhaka Art Summit. Hundreds and thousands of people saw it, and then it traveled here. So these partnerships are very, very important, and it makes a huge difference to see it's a historical show connected with younger artists, talking about your inner child, bringing out your inner child in exhibitions like this. So, of course, collaboration is a very important part, and yeah.
And I think that's also something that you've brought home, because like we were talking earlier, that what you and Rajiv have done is also highlight Bangladesh on a very international scale, but rather than just taking everything out to the West or to other countries, it's how you've brought the world into the region and brought the world into Dhaka. And what you'll have also done is recognized, say, smaller collectives and spaces that were already in Dhaka, in Bangladesh, and collaborated with them in different ways and expanded how they may have been able to go out but also come back. And within the region, during the Dhaka Art Summit, when people come in, collaborating with them and bringing their works into the forefront is something that you've done quite a bit too.
I think when we started our foundation, this is before Dhaka Art Summit, we were supporting artists, younger artists, for exhibitions here and there and projects here and there. And then we realized that this is not enough. Like, how many artists can you support in a year? How many? Is this an impact? How much of a difference is it making? After that, that's when the idea of Dhaka Art Summit came, that, okay, we will create an event where the whole world will come and see us. And it just happened, and it grew.
Oh, that's spectacular. And just one last question before we open it up to questions in the audience was, given how process has become such an important part of how one sees artists working, there are many grants that have come up, different people who can, within whatever capacity that's possible, support things. How do both of you envision the future of the patronage in the arts, and are there any projects that you would like to highlight that you are working on currently?
I know Dhaka Art Summit happens once in 2 years. It's a pop-up exhibition, but Srihatta will be a place where it's open all year round, and it's going to be our permanent space. And we plan to do a lot of exciting projects, residencies, and a lot of things. And also, for education is also a big part of our foundation's core. And through this, I mean, we want our artists to grow from strength to strength and be people. We want to collaborate with many institutions from all over the world, and yeah.
I think when you belong to a foundation space, say FICA, you want it to be sustainable. And I want to say that I don't think I would want any of the projects that we've spoken about to be a part of history. I hope that they are ongoing. The India Pavilion, for example, as the Confederation of Indian Industry, our job is to facilitate it, is to make sure that there is a way and a process that's put into place where other organizations can continue, where the public sector can understand that there is a need for permanence there. I think they do, and we will get there. And that there are more collaborations between the two, because even there, it's the inclusivity that you can tell is what turns out to be the most effective. So I think continuity is very important to me. There are lots of projects in the pipeline, but for this particular segment, I would really just like to highlight that I don't want things to belong to history where I say, oh, in 2019 this happened, or 2020 this happened, and that's where it stays. I hope that these just go forward in different manifestations, but taking across the same feelings that they realized.
That's so true. I think not to have something end, but think of it as a continuous process. Thank you. Thank you both for this conversation. Really